top priority right now is finding a new head coach. This transition happened, which, wasn't that long ago. There were a couple openings in the NBA. Now there are 6 teams that need new head coaches. And quite frankly, it's possible that Milwaukee and Atlanta are going to get added to that list. So how deliberate does Brad have time to be, or the organization have time to be, in terms of a widespread search to nail that person?
Well, I don't think he's dragging feet on this. I don't think that's a concern. I think there's a very good chance that that the people that some of the main people he's considering are currently working, are currently busy with playoff games, etc. So I think that plays into it. And as far as the Celtics, perhaps, I guess what you're alluding to would be missing out on somebody. You look at around the league at the job openings, even the potential very attractive position. You've got 2 guys under contract in their all-stars in their early 20s. If you're a coach or a coach who's in desire from other teams, if you're the Celtics, that's a pretty good selling point. A coach is going to want to go where he can succeed or she can succeed. And the Celtics, for all their issues this past season, when you look around the league, and as much as you were frustrated by this season, look around the league and tell me how many other teams you'd rather be than the Boston Celtics. There are some certainly, and there are some certainly in this moment. But when you look at the bigger picture, take a step back and look 5 years and tell me how many teams you'd rather be than the Celtics. And so I'm saying is that whereas they've got work to do, and when people who follow the team, fans, etc., look at them, they see, damn, it's not this, they're not this or that. But taking a step back, there's, they're in a pretty good position relative to other teams.
The one thing too, if you look at this particular group, you look at Celtics ownership, you look at, what the front office might look like when they're done. I think we all assume at this point that Zarin is probably going to get elevated to some whatever status, and we'll see what happens with Austin Ainge and the rest of the group. But the one thing I think, if you're an incoming coach, or you're at least looking at the Celtics in terms of this could be my next job, there's a little loyalty factor here that I think that might play into this thing. Boston, their ownership group, and who they've been able to retain, that seems to be like they're pretty loyal, maybe to a fault. You can maybe say that. Maybe they've put a lot of stock into Danny and letting him do his thing and being hands off, which I think a lot of ownership groups sometimes, they get in a little bit of a trouble with meddling too much in the basketball operations side of things. You can at least say this is a group that, lets the people that they hire run the show. And if you're an incoming, head coach, you look at, Danny's been there for, was there for a long time. Brad, he just elevated. He's been there for a long time. This is a job that maybe you'll be able to grow with, in addition to the fact that you've talked about. They have 2 young all-stars who are, especially in Jason Tatum, who's, you look at some other players on the league right now, and you look at him and say, man, he is one of the very few guys I would love to build a team around and have in my back pocket. Is there a particular candidate that has been in discussion here, Steve, that you like? I mean, there's some guys that we know about, the Sam Cassell's, the Chauncey Billups, Kara Lawson, obviously, formerly with the team, the Ime Udoka, choice. I don't know a lot about him, so I've been trying to, peruse the internet a little bit, trying to find out more about him and his coaching style and where he's come from. And you find out the San Antonio tree is not too far away from him. Is there a favorite candidate that you've been able to kind of look at the landscape and say, yeah, that's the guy I think that makes the most sense for this Celtics team?
Well, there are some candidates like Ime Udoka, who I don't really know. But a lot of the other candidates I've spoken to over the years, sometimes a lot. So again, not knowing that there may be Udoka may be the guy that is in Brad's mind. And remember too that San Antonio. So I'm sure they're talking about this situation. But the two people, again, not knowing everything here to know there may be a better candidate than one of the two I'm going to mention. But the two that I think, if the Celtics came away with either of them, they'd be in a really good situation. And Chauncey Billups would be one of them. This is a thoughtful guy. This is a bright guy who understands the game and understands perception and situations. Because let's face it, when you're the head coach and you're speaking every day, you know, sometimes at shoot around, pregame, postgame, everything you say is going to get parsed in the media, by fans, talk radio, all that stuff. So someone like a Chauncey Billups, his basketball knowledge and the gravitas that he has with his experience, I think he'd be a great choice. And I think he's a really hot candidate around the league. I think if he wants to be a head coach next season, he will be a head coach in the NBA. The other person that I would put with many of the similar qualities, and this would be a going bold move, would be Kara Lawson. And that's not just from the conversations I've had with her. I did a story about her when she first came in. I remember talking to her in Las Vegas for some time. But I mentioned her name largely because, and assistant coaches can be kind of behind the scenes on NBA teams, even with the Celtics. A lot of teams don't allow their assistant coaches to speak with media on the record and things. So a lot of those coaches, assistant coaches, are wary about, you know, chatting up media. You know, Kara wasn't like a, you know, hey, how are you kind of person. But speaking with the players about her, she really impressed the players. And if you look, it's not necessarily right, but it's the way it is. When you're a woman walking into one of these situations, you've got a quote unquote burden of proof because you're coming into a field that has been dominated by men. But Kara Lawson, with her basketball knowledge, was very, very impressive. And I think just the way the relationship she built with the players in terms of their work and all those things and working with them, I think really stuck out. I think she'd be a great candidate here or elsewhere. If you're going to go with a woman in this situation, if you're going to be bold, which I think would be a really cool idea, not just for like, hey, look, we're being bold, but because they're qualified people. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the Celtics history, this is a franchise that's not been afraid to be bold. You know, first all black starting five, Bill Russell as coach, you know, and these things worked out pretty well. But Becky Hammon, she's a real basketball person. I remember her as a player, and her coach was Richie Adebato in WNBA, who was a friend of mine. And back when she was playing, he and I would be talking, and he'd be raving about her. And I know she'll get her opportunity at some point. And when she does, let me give you a little tip here. You know, I'm not sure if sports betting will be legal in Massachusetts or not, but it'd be worth a flight to Vegas and find out her team's total for the season and take the over.
Hi guys, Cedric Maxwell here. I want to take a minute to tell you about Marigold Medical. I'm used to keeping my body in great shape, but with arthritis, even the most simple everyday tasks became unbearable. As soon as I called Marigold Medical, I knew I was in good hands. No drugs, no surgery, just an experienced team of caring professionals that wanted to get me back to doing the things I love. Make the call to Marigold Medical and get back to pain-free life.